Again, let me ask you before we read. How many kinds of tithes do we have? 3. All right. So anybody asking you to pay your tithe, asking which of them? Because we have the tithe of the Lord, we have the festival tithe, which you are the one to eat it, and then we have the tithe for the poor. Now, in Malachi chapter 3, which one was Malachi talking about? Read Malachi 3:10 with me. Malachi chapter 3 verse number 10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Question: which one goes into the storehouse? The Lord's tithe, which the Levites will take 10% of 10%. The land will give to the Levites 10%. Then the Levites will take 10% and give to the priest. The 10% given to the priest is the one that goes to the storehouse. It's not the tithe of the land that goes to the storehouse. The land will pay tithe to the Levites. The Levites will take 10% from the 10% and give it to the priests that were attending to the temple. Is it clear? That's fundamental. Now, so only one was to be taken into the storehouse. The Levites in the city will give to the priest. So people didn't take tithes directly to the priest. They took it to the Levites. And the Levites took 10% and gave to the priest. That's the one for the storehouse. When he says meat, he's talking of food. Let there be food at the altar. Those who minister at the altar will live by the altar. They will eat the food that the Levites brought to the storehouse. For the priests, who are also Levites, but are living permanently in the storehouse to serve the storehouse on behalf of Israel. So after giving the Levites 10%, they will now take 10% and take it to the priesthood. Do you understand? Is it clear? So everything is for Levi. Levi will now take out of theirs and give it to the minority who serve in the house. So it is 10% of 10%. Now, go back to Numbers 18, verse 9 to 32. You read that at home. Numbers 18, 9 to 32. But I want to read Numbers 18, verse 9. This shall be thine of the most holy things, reserved for the fire. Every oblation of theirs, every meat offering of theirs, every sin offering of theirs, every trespass offering of theirs, which they shall render unto me, shall be most holy for thee and for thy sons. Give me verse 28 to 32 of Numbers 18. Thus ye also shall offer and heave offering unto the Lord of all your tithes, which you receive of the children of Israel, and you shall give thereof the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. Out of all your gifts you shall offer every heave offering of the Lord, of all the best thereof, even the hallowed part thereof out of it. Therefore thou shalt say unto them, when you have heaved the best thereof from it, then it shall be counted unto the Levites as the increase of the threshing floor, and as the increase of the wine press. And you shall eat it in every place, ye and your households, for it is your reward for your service in the tabernacle of the congregation. And you shall bear no sin by reason of it. When you have heaved from it the best of it, neither shall you pollute the holy things of the children of Israel, lest you die. Out of what you are giving, you take and give to your brethren serving in the tabernacle. You can read these scriptures at home. Nehemiah 12, 44 to 47. Nehemiah 12, 44 to 47. Nehemiah 13, verse 4 to 13. Nehemiah 13, verse 4 to 13. Second Chronicles 31, 11. Second Chronicles 31, 11. Now, put up on the screen for me Nehemiah 10:35. And to bring the first fruits of our ground, and the first fruit of all trees, year by year, unto the house of the Lord. Why did Nehemiah talk about tithe? Because they had just come back from captivity, and it is for the land. Secondly, they were building. They had just come back and they were building. Nehemiah 10:36 to 37. Pay attention. Also the firstborn of our sons and of our cattle, as it is written in the law, and the firstlings of our herds and of our flocks, to bring to the house of our God, unto the priests that minister in the house of our God. Look at 37a. And that we should bring the first fruits of our dough and our offerings, and the fruit of all manner of trees, of wine and of oil, unto the priests, to the chambers of the house of our God, and the tithes of our ground unto the Levites, that the same Levites might have the tithes in all the cities of our tillage. Oil to the house of our God, to the Levites, that the Levites will have the tithes to give to those in the tabernacle. Now look at verse 38 of that same Nehemiah 10. And the priest, the sons of Aaron, shall be with the Levites. When the Levites take tithes, and the Levites shall bring up the tithe of the tithes unto the house of our God, to the chambers, into the treasure house. So it was the Levites that were to pay tithe to the priest, who will now put it in the storehouse. Is it getting clear? All right, tithe of tithe. So who was Malachi 3 talking to? He was talking to the Levites. He was talking to the Levites, who were to bring from 10% to the storehouse. So it's the Levites that they were telling that were cursed with the curse, not the children of Israel. Not the children of Israel, but the Levites. Because Malachi 3:9 talks to the whole nation. Because the instruction was for the priests, but the Levites specifically. The instruction was given to the Levites and priests, but it involved the whole nation, about not taking care of the oppressed, strangers, and the poor. So the key issue in Malachi was he was dealing with selfishness among the Levites. Selfishness, which now affected what they were giving to the Levites and to the priest. The whole nation, the Levites, all selfishness. And that was the essence of Malachi's prophecy. We will look at it. Why was Malachi a major voice? Malachi, Zechariah, and Haggai were the three that talked about the house and the temple, because they were after Nehemiah. So everything was the same dispensation, which is when they came back from exile. Look at Nehemiah 13 verse 4 to 13, but I will read verse 7 to 13. And I came to Jerusalem and understood of the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah in preparing him a chamber in the courts of the house of God. And it grieved me sore. Therefore I cast forth all the household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers. And thither brought I again the vessels of the house of God, with the meat offering and the frankincense. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them. For the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled everyone to his field. Then contended I with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then brought all Judah the tithe of the corn and the new wine and the oil unto the treasuries. 13. And I made treasurers over the treasuries, Shelemiah the priest, and Zadok the scribe, and the Levites, Pedaiah, and next to them was Hanan the son of Zaccur, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their office was to distribute unto their brethren. So they were restoring the practice after exile of the Levites and the priesthood. So that's the same dispensation where you find Malachi and Haggai and Zechariah. Look at Malachi chapter 1 verse 6. A son honoreth his father, and a father his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Saith the Lord of hosts unto you, O priests, that despise my name. And you say, wherein have we despised your name? So the tithe was restricted to the promised land. The first audience of the book of Malachi were the priests. Malachi was writing to the priests. Look at verse 9. Malachi 1:9. And now I pray you, beseech God that you will be gracious unto us. This had been by your means, which ye regard your presence, saith the Lord of hosts. Malachi chapter 2 verse 1. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. This is not for Israel, it's for the priest. Malachi 3:3. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. So the instructions were to the Levites. The Levites were the ones dealt with, because they were the ones that brings the tithe into the storehouse. So if anybody want to practice tithe, in column 2 and 3, Exodus to Malachi and the 4 Gospels, he has to practice all these things step by step. So who will be the Levites? And who will be the priests? And then somebody said, well, the Levites will be those who serve, and the priests will be the pastors. So church workers, Levites, pastors, priests. So that means tithe should be paid to church workers. Then the church workers will take 10% and give to the pastors. Are you following? It is not practicable. It is not practicable. That's an assumption I just made. It means that the church workers will be the ones really keeping the money. But if you follow strict interpretation, that's how it ought to be. If you want to really do tithe. And there will be one that eats the festival one. So it is for the poor, the strangers, the widows, the fatherless. It is becoming funny because it was not written to you. The people it was written to had the circumstances to apply those instructions to. Did you observe that the priests don't tithe? So pastors should not tithe to a bigger man of God, because the priests don't tithe. Then notice that the priests don't own property. So if you want to do tithing, you man of God that want to do tithing, you must never own a property. Even the Levites, it is just given to them to dwell in. You can't own property and be saying they should pay tithe to you, because once they start paying tithe to you, you don't have any property or business or entitlement. You're supposed to take your property and live in the church. Then they'll be bringing for you anise, curry, pepper, maggi, crayfish. You can't own anything. You can't own cars. You can't buy jets. Just stay in the church and be eating spices. The things they bring. Also, the tithe is all crops and animals. So they will bring goat, chicken. You just be there eating. That's all you have to do. Eat and attend to the tabernacle. It becomes impracticable, and it is impossible for you to tithe. It's called the law. The law is not good news. The law is for the unrighteous. The law is for the sinner. The law is not for the righteous. So anybody demanding tithe, ask him which one. The Lord's tithe, festival tithe, or the poor, and then ask him, are you a Levite?